Get started, I wanted to welcome you all to Coffee Talk. Our September Coffee Talks are brought to you by Angela Cisneros, Jewelry Concierge, and our contributing sponsor is Charles Barbeau. Thank you, Charles. These two are helping make these happen so we can bring these programs to you. It's an ongoing series every Wednesday from 8:30 until 9:30. As I mentioned, we've got two more in September. And due to the success, I'm not sure we might carry these on or make them lunch and learns. And it's constantly evolving through these, as they say, unprecedented times. But we have today with us, we've got Rachelle Rickard, City Manager of Atascadero, and Ron Overacker from Atascadero PD. Angela Cisneros has just joined us, and she is our presenting sponsor. I do want to let you all know that this event is being recorded, so please let me know if you have any objections to that. Rachelle and Dawn will be presenting for about 20 to 30 minutes, and then we'll take any questions via the chat, and those will be, weeded through, and we usually are able to take all of the questions, and then we can send them on to Rachelle and Ron. I'd like to mention our Chairman's Circle sponsors. We've got them all listed on the screen here, and we've got Atascadero City, Atascadero Mutual Water Company, A-Town Daily News, BHE Renewables, Debuto and Defendus Insurance, Galaxy Theater, Golden One Credit Union, Dignity Health Urgent Care, Idler's Home. I see Dawn's with us today too. Justin Vineyard and Winery, Kennedy Club Fitness, Mechanics Bank, Pacific Premier Bank, Tenant Health Central Coast, Waste Management, the Atascadero News, and the Colony Magazine. So these Chairman Circle sponsors have helped keep these programs running too, and other programs when we're not in these kind of times. So as I mentioned too, for fun, we'll be holding a coffee cup competition. So I'll ask you periodically to hold up your coffee cup, and then please vote for your favorite in the chat, and that person will get the distinct title of being the coffee cup champion, and will receive a free coffee talk either next week or the week after. As our presenting sponsor, I'd like to pass the mic over to Angela Cisneros, who will give us a short presentation about her business.
Hi, everybody. I'm Angela, of course, and my business is Angela Cisneros, Jewelry Concierge. I'm a graduate gemologist, and I've been in the industry for 23 years. I was the manager at K-Johns. I did HR, I did jewelry buying, I did sales, I did inventory, I did it all. And so when they retired, Stan and Mary retired, I still wanted to stay in the industry, but I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to create a space where people didn't feel intimidated about coming into, where they could relax. I wanted to create a space where people felt like they could take their time and just shop for jewelry at their leisure. And I found in the 23 years of doing that many people didn't want to shop for something special like an engagement ring or an anniversary gift with a room full of people. They wanted it to be private and personal. And so I created Angela Cisneros Jewelry Concierge, San Luis Obispo County's first by appointment jewelry store. So when you make an appointment with me, you come in, we sit down, we relax, we have a beverage, it could be hot or cold. And we shop for jewelry, we try on things. If I don't have something in my inventory that fits what you want, I can order something in, and of course we can do custom. But I think the most important element of my business is that it really is all about you. You get to choose the time, the day and time that works best for you. And when you come into my private showroom, there's nobody else here. It's just you and I. And I don't know, I think that's special, especially during this time, of course. I do have clients that prefer Zoom. I do have clients that prefer text. I do have clients that prefer face-to-face. And I have clients that prefer a mixture of everything. So really we can tailor it to what works best for you. And I don't know, I love what I'm doing. I'm having a great time. And if so, I just want to extend the invitation. If anybody's looking for something special or wants a gift for themselves, like feel free to reach out to me and we'll get something started for you. I love my logo and my tagline. It's Angela Cisneros, Jewelry Concierge, Brilliant Features by Appointment. And that's all.
Thank you, Angela. And I see that Madison, who's helping us out behind the scenes, put her information in the chat. So
thanks, Madison.
Yes. And now, so it gives me great pleasure to introduce Rachelle Rickard and Ron Overacker. Rachelle Rickard graduated with a business degree from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo in December of 1987. Did you want me to say that, Rachelle? I graduated the same year, so, and went to work for a Big 8 accounting firm where she audited companies as diverse as retail giants, Macy's of California, the San Francisco Symphony, and the fruit canning cooperative Tri-Valley Growers. Upon marriage to her husband, Brett, she moved from the Bay Area to Atascadero and received a job with Moss, Levy, and Hartzheim, working in their Santa Maria offices which specialized in audits of governmental entities and nonprofit agencies. In February of 1997, Rachelle began her service with the City of Atascadero with her appointment to the accounting position. Shortly thereafter, she was promoted to the position of Director of Administrative Services. As the Director of Administrative Services, Rachelle was responsible for financial planning and reporting, accounting, accounts payable, purchasing, payroll, accounts receivable, cash management, and business licenses. She was also responsible for risk management, litigation management, workers' compensation management, personnel, negotiations, affordable housing, grants management, FEMA administration, construction management for the $34 million historic City Hall project, regulatory compliance, budgeting, and contract review. So I'm like really tired reading your long list of accomplishments. Rachelle was appointed by the Atascadero City Council to the position of City Manager in July of 2013. She's very pleased to continue to work with her strong department head team and proud to work with the dedicated employees that serve the City of Atascadero. Thank you, Rachelle. And if you can all bear with me too, I'd like to also introduce Ron Overacker with the Atascadero PD. He has been a member of the Atascadero Police Department since 2013. First as a reserve police officer, and then in 2015, he began work as a full-time officer with the patrol division. Since 2018, Ron has been assigned to the traffic division, where he usually can be found riding the police motorcycle around town, investigating traffic collisions and promoting traffic safety. Ron is also the president of the Atascadero Police Association, which is a nonprofit organization that works to educate supporters of law enforcement in how to help the police department accomplish their goals. Prior to becoming a police officer, Ron was a small business owner himself, and in 2009, he founded a helicopter flight training school with locations in Paso Robles and Tulare. Part of that business also included providing contract helicopter services to municipal police departments in the Central Valley, which is how he fell in love with law enforcement and decided to make a full-time career. Ron lives here in Atascadero with his wife, Sarah, who is an immigration attorney in Paso Robles, and they have 2 young children that attend elementary school in Atascadero. So welcome, Rachelle and Ron, and Rachelle will dive into specifically about the sales tax measure.
So thank you all, and thank you for listening this morning. I'm going to go through a little financial background and just background of the city. A lot of times when I talk to people, they're surprised at what city services we provide, the amount of staffing we have, and some of that. And then Ron is with the group for Yes on Measure D20. That is the sales tax ballot measure that will be on the ballot in November. And he's going to talk to you a little bit about why he thinks we need this and what's going on. So with that, I'm going to dive in. And, whoops, okay, how come I'm not advancing? We'll do this. A little bit about Atascadero. We are a big city. 26 square miles are in the incorporated city. There's areas outside the city that are called Atascadero, but they're not within the city limits. We are the youngest city in the county, incorporated in 1979. Right now, the Department of Finance says we have a population of a little over 30,000 people. We're slightly older than the U.S. median average. We seem to be aging every year as more retirees move in, and some of our younger families are having a tougher time staying here. Our average family income's about $104,000, $105,000, and we have 11,000 households here. Right now, our median home price is in the $550,000 range, and our sales tax rate is 7.75. I like to say we are not a poor community. In fact, sometimes on the census, we tend to have the highest family median income. This is just straight median income, but we have the highest family median income in the county. So we are a fairly off community. We have a very low poverty rate, again, compared to other cities in the county. But we're not a well-funded city at all. And by that, this is a chart that we've seen a lot. The council is very familiar with this chart. This compares city organization revenues per capita to the other cities in the county. So if you look, we're Atascadero, we're over there on the far left. We have the lowest per capita revenue of any in the county. We're about half of our neighbors there at Paso, Morro Bay, and San Luis Obispo, all just about double what we bring in per capita. Pismo's in there. What's that?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I don't think we're seeing your screen. Is it just me?
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Okay. Let's see. Thank you, Emily.
There we go.
There we go. Does that work better? Sorry about that. Okay. This would make a lot more sense with the screen, huh? We are about half the revenue per capita of, like I said, our nearest neighbors in the county. Pismo's in a class by themselves with almost $3,000 per resident, but we're down here at $657. If you look at this, each color on this chart represents a different revenue source for that city. Property tax, sales tax, transient occupancy tax, that's a tax you pay when you go to hotels, utility users tax, and others. Property tax, the city gets a small portion or a portion of the property tax you pay. So on average, on a $3,500 annual bill, the city will get about $460 of that to provide police, parks, roads, fire, zoo, recreation, all of those services. We're the lowest property tax city in the county, but for property tax, we're at least in the same ballpark as most of our neighbors. Sales tax is a little bit different. We get about $119 per person in sales tax. This is substantially lower than all of our neighbors, which makes a lot of sense, right? Cities get sales tax from where you purchase those goods and services. So as we go shop in Paso Robles or San Luis Obispo or Pismo Beach, Those cities receive that sales tax to provide their police, parks, fire services. We get those sales tax dollars for purchases that are made here in Atascadero. What that means is that we're constantly looking at trade-offs. Do we spend our dollars on police, or do we spend them on fire? Do we spend it on the zoo, or do we spend it on roads? Lots of questions, lots of choices. Susan and Charles, who are on this call, have a lot of tough choices every single year. We are at the point where we are continuously budgeting that we are going to spend more than we are bringing in. We have a fiscal plan to do that, to make sure that we never go negative, but we're getting to the point where we need to make some tough choices. We have already made some tough choices. We have made things work by not funding certain things. When a playground breaks and no longer meets state standards, we have not been replacing those playgrounds. We don't have those funds. Our fire engines, any vehicle or equipment that has a life of longer than 20 years, we're not putting away funds to replace those when they come due. Roads prior to F14, again, we couldn't spend any of our general funds on roads. Our next choices as we try and work on the expense side of the equation are a little bit tougher. We have been making continual choices, meaning, hey, we're going to keep police salaries low, which in effect a lot of times means we have a lot of vacancies, and so we're reducing the number of police officers, or we're not adding police officers as we add capacity. So there's a lot of things going on to make things work and to continually cut on the police side. We have the fewest employees per 1,000. Obviously, we don't have a lot of revenue, so we continually try and cut back. We have a little bit more than 4 employees per 1,000 residents. Every city is different. Morro Bay has a harbor patrol and some other things. They're up around 9. We're about half that. So what does that mean? Our police department, we typically have 21 sworn officers if all of our positions are filled. We have a chief, 2 lieutenants, and 5 sergeants, so for a total of 29 sworn officers here in the city. What that means is a lot of times we have 3 officers on duty at any given time. We have a dispatch team. We have 7 funded positions. Assuming there's no vacancies, we've had 2 vacancies in that particular position for over a year trying to fill those. So if you know anybody who wants to be a police dispatcher, it's really hard work and a lot of really weird hours, but very fulfilling. Please let them know we're recruiting for dispatchers. And then we have a few other positions here in the city. We do respond to about 28,000 calls per year, and our officers do wear body cameras. Pretty much we are one of the lowest in the state on per capita spending. So again, we're being very conscientious. We have a very professional, wonderful, caring police department. We do a lot with a lot less, but we are starting to work. We started at around 1.4 police officers per 1,000. When we incorporated, we're down to 0.9 officers, which is about half of the national average. And about 29% of the city expenditures do go to police. This is just a chart showing over time our police officers per 1,000 continues to decline. Fire department, we have 18 floor personnel, fire captains and fire engineers. We have 2 stations. We do try and man those stations where there are 3 people at each station at any given time. One of our firefighter is funded through a 3-year grant, and that grant will expire in 2021. One of our biggest issues in our fire department is that Fire Station 1 was built in 1951. It's a 70-year-old fire station. It needs everything you can imagine a 70-year-old building does. We do have buckets on the floor when it rains. We do need to not just replace the roof, but it need to seismically upgrade that and do other upgrades for safety and to bring it to a modern police fire station. Fire, we do a little bit better. We spend about $151 per person. This makes sense. Fire is a huge threat here in Atascadero, so we want to make sure that we are well funded in our fire department. Where police was in the bottom quartile of the state on how much we spend for police, our fire's right about the middle, a little bit lower than half. And fire represents about 20% of the city expenditures. Public Works, they do a lot of everything else you guys usually think about in the city. We do parks, streets, facilities, wastewater, engineering, transit, pavilion. We have 105 acres of parks. We have 4.5 guys that take care of those 105 acres, along with a lot of the landscaping around some of our city facilities. We don't spend a ton on roads like we talked about, yeah, a lot of stuff they do. I'm going to skip roads, trying to keep this quick. Community development. Community development is the building department, so if anybody wants to build anything, they're going to be working with community development. That's planning and building. Planning is before you build the project, telling them what you are planning to do, where you're planning to do it, how you're planning to do it. Building department is they review the plans, make sure that you're complying with building code and do the inspections. Over 1,000 permits will be issued this year. And we'll perform about 4,200 inspections this year. Again, we're in the bottom half of spending per capita, which means that's great. We're very frugal with our funds, but I'm going to also tell you that we're very stretched. We have other departments. We have recreation, the zoo, technology, finance, city manager, city council. Charles Paddock Zoo is a fully accredited zoo. That's really important. There's only about 240 fully accredited zoos and aquariums in the United States, actually in North America. We have to meet the same standards as San Diego Zoo, Monterey Bay Aquarium, Bronx Zoo. We're all part of that organization. We typically have about 2,100 athletes who will participate in city programs. We spend very little compared to other cities in the state of California on administration. We spend about 9.5% of the statewide average on administration. So lean machine. We talked about trade-offs. There's also some trade-offs on we're stretched so thin, it's not working right now. We need to make some decisions. One of the things that we have been working for and working towards, and we hear a lot, is, hey, we just need to grow our way out of this. How cities make revenue is, hey, can we add some sales tax in there? Can you add some other things? If you add housing, you bring in that property tax at that $464 or a little bit more if the house is worth more, but you have to provide services to those people. For businesses, yes, you bring in that revenue from property tax, but you also bring in some revenue from sales tax and other things. So, what about hotels? A hotel the size of a Spring Hill Suites will bring in about $500,000 a year, give or take, $400,000 to $500,000 a year. So why are our city's always trying to add new hotels, there's that revenue source. Large retailers, big box stores. Big box stores are a big source of sales tax. A lot of us go to Costco or Walmart or other things, buy a lot of taxable goods. For good or for bad, big box stores are not expanding anymore. The change of the way we all shop, things that we used to go to Costco and Walmart for, we're now buying online. A lot of those things start to change. You'll find that big chain retailers really aren't building anymore. In fact, most of them are contracting. And so trying to grow those is very difficult. I know this is really small to read, and I don't plan on you reading, but this talks a little bit about how much various types of stores will bring in. And the reason I do that is because this sales tax is expected to bring in about $4.5 million. So that Costco that we talked about, or a big box store that can bring in $500,000, we would need 9 of them here in town to build to reach that sales tax number that we're talking about. If we're talking about a small family restaurant, we all want more restaurants here in town. In fact, all of those things that we saw on the last page, we want. We want housing, we want shopping, we want jobs, we want, choices. So you still need to try and do everything you can do to facilitate those, but the chances of us getting enough of that to meet our revenue needs to fund the services that people want are very, very small. So if you're looking at a small family restaurant, we need to add 300 of those. Our market just won't support that. Lots of different types of things we can go through. Sales tax rate, let me just jump into this, go quick. It's 7.25% is the state rate for sales tax. The state gets 6.25%. The city where the sales takes place gets 1%. There's a very complex formula to determine where sales take place on the internet. I can tell you for the most part, the city doesn't get any of that sales tax. So if you go and order stuff online, more than likely there is a warehouse in Ontario or Patterson or somewhere like that that's going to get that 1%. There is a special Amazon rule where we get a small fraction of that, but other than Amazon, they all go back. Voters may approve an additional sales tax rate. So if you look throughout the state, California rates are between 7.25% to 10.5%. Sales tax is not imposed on groceries, medication, utilities, services, real estate, rent, mortgages. A lot of your basic needs aren't subject to sales tax. But sales tax is imposed on gas, cleaning products, paper products, building materials, restaurants. Our largest industry here, our largest sales tax producer, gas stations. We have a lot of exits. People get off, buy gas, go on. So that is our largest sales tax producers. The additional sales tax, if it's passed in November, would be imposed on outside purchases of any car registered in Atascadero. So if you go up to the Bay Area and buy a car, instead of paying the 10.5% they may have up there, you're going to pay the sales tax rate here in Atascadero. And the city would receive that extra sales tax on those types of purchases. The city, say you buy it in San Jose, they would receive the 1 out of the 7.25%, but the city would receive the 1% that would be proposed as part of D20. Sales tax measures, the City Council did vote unanimously to place it on the ballot. They cannot put in a sales tax. They can only place it on the ballot. It must be placed on the ballot where council members, in a year where council members are selected, which is this year. If it passes in November, it goes into effect April 1st. We would receive our first revenues in June of 2021. And it does require 50% plus one vote to pass. If we restricted it for a specific purpose, it would require a 2/3 vote plus one vote to pass. This is the ballot language. It's to provide funding for fire protection, paramedics, and 911 emergency response, police, crime prevention, investigations, maintenance of parks, public facilities, infrastructure, graffiti removal, recreation, community services, and other general city services. Shall the measure establishing a 1% sales tax be adopted, providing approximately $4.5 million annually for city services until ended by voters, with annual independent audits and all money locally controlled. Some of the arguments for are that everyone pays: travelers, tourists, businesses, and restaurants. It's paid based on consumption. Those that buy little pay little. Those that buy a lot pay more. It can't be taken by the state. It's not paid on basic necessities. We need this to maintain our police, fire, parks, and other services. Without this revenue, the city is going to be making some more tough choices on how to continue and what services we can continue to provide. I will tell you that most jurisdictions in the county are considering a similar sales tax. I think 5 of the cities are considering a 1% sales tax. The city of Pismo Beach is considering an increase in their TOT, and the city of Arroyo Grande decided not to place it on the ballot. Some of the arguments against are that certain residents can't afford any new taxes. Certainly COVID has had a financial impact on some people in our community, and adding to their tax burden is just tough. This is a general tax, and there is no guarantee on how the additional revenues will be spent, and citizens are already heavily taxed by the state and feds. A proposed transparency, citizen involvement. We are proposing a series of 8 to 12 study sessions. These will be public sessions where we will be heavily advertising and trying to get people in to educate the public about the critical needs of the city, hear from the public about priorities and needs, and receive feedback on where D20 funds should be spent. What is it that we want? What services do we want? What service level? What is it that we want to achieve? That is what we're going to be trying to get out of those 8 to 12 study sessions. We're going to try and do them different days, different times, different night, day, weekends, so that everybody has a chance to participate. From there, we'll go to a council strategic planning session to set priorities, outcomes, and goals. Then the city council will be another city council meeting to adopt an action plan that lists specific action steps to be taken to achieve the priorities, goals, and outcomes. And we'll set measurements and metrics to monitor the effectiveness of the proposed expenditures. From there, we will have not less than 6 public finance committee meetings to discuss where the funds will be spent. Those will, again, very well advertised, open to the public. We want to get feedback. We want input. We'll adopt the city budget, and then we will prepare an annual report stating where D20 funds were spent, similar to the annual road reports sent to residents. So F14 is a special sales tax. We have a lot of things trying to be as transparent as possible. That is the direction of the council on this, is transparency and public process. We send this annual roads report out to every resident and business each year, stating exactly where the funds have been spent, where they're going to be spent. On our website, we have a button down in the lower left-hand corner that says Measure F14. Has the road reports from each year, lists every road that's being repaired by F14, the status of the road. So Allegra is in the design phase. It's going to be constructed in 2021. On those that are completed, you can click on the road. It shows the road segment that was completed, has a detailed list of every invoice that was charged to that. Lots of good information. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Ron.
Hello, everyone. I'm not controlling the slideshow, but we did form a ballot measure committee. All the associations have kind of got together as we see kind of firsthand the need for this. It's our skin in the game, as it were. So we have this committee. We've got a website that kind of talks and educates. We're trying to educate as many people as we can about the need for this. I live in Atascadero. I don't want to pay more taxes, but our city has a revenue problem, and I don't know that we can continue going on like this, at least from the perspective of the police department. I think there's a few more slides, Rachelle, if you want to go through those, if you can advance those. I believe that a lot of opposition, I've seen like online, people say, oh, well, the city has a spending problem. We need to cut back, tighten the belt. If you look at this chart, which shows this is state average per capita, we are spending a fraction of that. If our numbers were up near or slightly above state average, I could get behind that and say, yeah, you know, we need to figure out a way to tighten the belt. There's just nothing to cut that I can see from our perspective anyway. We just don't have the revenue. We're the lowest funded in the county, and as a result, we still have our population to serve, doing less and less and less. I just looked it up. We've been at 29 sworn officers since 1994. We got up to 30 from 97 to 2010. We're back down to 29 sworn. And look at, I mean, this 25 years, we're at the same staffing level, and there's no end in sight of getting extra bodies, not to mention all the other things the governor's done to re-release prisoners into our community or shifting the burden to the county. There's no bail. There's just a higher concentration of people for us to deal with to try to keep the community safe, and there's just not enough of us. 3 officers has been minimum staffing level since 1980. That means that the city can only hire or pay overtime to maintain staffing. When we're at 3 bodies on patrol, we're running that 52% of the time. I have officers and friends that are going to very, potentially violent calls, single officer. As recently as this weekend, I had a sergeant says there's no one else. We had one person was out of the county. The other officer had an arrestee, couldn't break from that. So he's going to a domestic violence call by himself, trying to rely on the county to back us up. And they have 1 car at night that covers from the grade to San Miguel out to Cal Valley. So they may or may not be in position to help us. The pay is I'm the president of the police association. I'm here to tell you, we don't need to be the top paid police department in the county. We're not advocating for that. We just need to be middle of the road. Since 2018, we've lost 5 officers to other agencies. We can't retain people because they can do the same job and get paid a little more up the road. And I think we'll probably, I'm sure, get into the broader discussion about law enforcement as a profession, but the importance of having experienced officers on the street, and not becoming a training department where you're just turning over new officer results in a better level of service for the community for a variety of reasons. The fire department, they have the one position that is funded through the grant that I don't know that we need to be cutting fire positions right now, especially considering half the state's on fire and we're all breathing smoke. We're one bad call away from it being our community. I know the city manager talked about Fire Station 1 and the conditions those guys are living in over there. I think the biggest issue, and Rachelle, correct me if I'm wrong, is it's not earthquake retrofitted, is that correct? Oh, she's muted. So, it's my understanding that it's not. As such, we're not able to, if there were a major earthquake, my understanding is Station 1, the firefighters there would, not be as protected as other city or other buildings in the city. Rachelle, you're unmuted now.
Yeah, that is correct. So the fire station meets the seismic requirements of a 1950s commercial building. The seismic requirements these days for a fire station and a commercial building are much better. The ties to the roof are not what you want in your earthquake. You've often wondered, why do we bring out, after an earthquake, why do we bring the engines out and park them in the driveway? And that is so that if there's aftershocks or other things and we lose it, at least our engines are available to go out. So yes, we have problems.
Okay. Talking about the engines, I think talking to the firefighters, the frontline engines, they look new. They're at 15 years old. I think NFPA recommends at 20 years old they need to be cycled completely out of service and with no reserve set aside. What's the plan for these engines? The $600,000. We have 2 stations. That's 1.2 million. The city just doesn't have. This is equipment that we rely on. Pretty much in our worst day. We need to make sure that it's functioning and that we do have the ability to put frontline engines out that are capable of protecting the community. As we all know, the wildland fires are getting bigger, and our ability to respond, we want to make sure that, if we do have a call in our city, that the engines actually run and are able to go out there and fight the fire. I know that this came up with Paso Robles, that their fire protection rating, I think it's ISO that does that, and they look at the fire, staffing, the equipment, what does each city have, and that goes into a fire rating, which affects homeowners insurance. So we want to make sure that we maintain what we have and we don't fall behind and lose it. Otherwise, we're going to end up paying, our community is going to end up being out the money, which we're just going to pay to insurance, but we're not going to receive any benefit for it if we risk losing or our fire rating goes down. We also still have, I also talked to a lot of people that suggest, well, why don't we just do a public safety tax? 9% on roads. I live in this city. I drive on our roads. We still, even with F-14, need parks, we need streets, we need these other services, and to sequester off and say, well, we're going to fund police and fire, but it's acceptable that we're 9.5% of general government, or we're acceptable that we're at 9%, or we talk about economic development, and when our community development or building, there's not enough plan checkers to get things processed in a reasonable amount of time. I don't know how we can expect to grow our businesses if they can't get their permits approved. So everything, as you saw in that last chart, everything is so far below state average. I don't see that police and fire are disproportionately, we just end up cannibalizing pretty much ourselves as a city to maintain a few things. And that's why, we're in support of a general tax. I think the city manager laid out the accountability system for that. There has been discussion about a separate committee appointed to oversee it. I think our position is you elect your city council to do that. And I think holding our council members accountable is the best oversight that an informed citizen should have the ability to do, and talk to our council people about that to make sure it is spent on the priorities. And again, there's just this general gross misperception that because what we see at the state and federal level somehow trickles down to the local level, and I see good, honest public servants trying to make ends meet to provide services for the community. At least that's been my experience with council. Again, we already pay it elsewhere. The brick and mortar as a industry is shrinking, and the digital retail sales is increasing, of course, with the COVID staying in. I think U.S. Census Bureau has us up to 16% of all retail sales are now online. We lose all of that if we don't get a local tax on the books. So finally, we're done here, guys. Just kind of laying out the city's spending a fraction of what everyone else or the average is. We've tightened the belt. The belt's as tight as it can get. We're at a very sharp turning point in what we do from here. There's no fat to cut, as I can see it. We have a revenue problem, and despite what we want to do, we are here. It is now, I think, waiting for a better plan. We can't. I can tell you from the perspective of the police department, again, we have 5 officers that we've lost in 2 years. 2 are in process elsewhere. I don't want us to turn into a training department, and I don't want us to not be able to respond to calls and provide, full service policing the way we have. I want to be able to continue to partner with mental health, but that program only works if you have an officer available. And if we're just trying to answer 911 calls, we're not going to be able to do some of the things that we have, or some what may consider best practices, just because we're trying to keep 3 bodies on the street, which is going to lead to burnout, which people are, why are they doing this? At some point, you're going to be unable to find officers that are willing to work here, which is going to further impact our staffing and ability to respond. So I just feel like now is an important time in the history of, the city. Which direction are we going to go? So this is just this last slide, things you can do. Go to the website. If you're interested, shoot an email. You can call also. I think I put my number on there. If I didn't, I'll make sure to add it to the chat. But I think that concludes our PowerPoint.
I think, Rachelle, I think you're trying to talk and you're on. Yeah.
There we go. I just wanted to thank everybody for listening. There's a lot of information. I know we went a little long, but we can talk about it for forever on this stuff. We've lived it, breathed it, trying to find ways to make things work for a long period. And so just want to make sure people understand. So thank you all.
Okay, and if there are any questions, we have a few moments still for questions. But first, if everyone can hold up your coffee cup and send me a private message, let me know if who you vote for. And Ron has included his personal cell in the chat for everybody. If you have questions, you can contact him, and also this slide that is still up has a way that you can contact people as well. There was one question that came in, besides the 1% sales tax, how can we ensure moving forward that Atascadero is generating revenue to support community services?
I'm sorry, Rachelle, do you want to? There
we go. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of that is doing the same things we're doing, trying to attract, make it as easy and friendly as possible to attract those businesses that help produce a balanced community, attract head of household paying jobs. Not only does that help with sales tax and revenue, it also helps in that it produces more of the shopping and the restaurants and some of those things that the community wants to see, less congestion on the highways, all of those things. We've been working really hard on the Del Rio specific plan that's going to be coming to the council on September 22nd. It's a 190 to 250,000 square foot business park that's going to go in at the north end of town. Lots of people here during the day. That'll continue to bring in those revenues and trying to help. Like I said, we can't do it with just the growth alone. We're going to need another alternative source, which is why we're looking at the sales tax.
Okay. One other, oh, wait, Susan is raising her hand.
Yeah, thanks. Sometimes it's hard for us to get a handle on the human impact of this. And one thing that struck me was an experience we had with a lot of people are really concerned about homeless and transients downtown and the impact on the downtown. We're really trying to build up so it can generate that revenue for us. And we had a great program with a mental health worker, and then we lost it for a long period of time. Could one of you tell us a little bit more about that and why we had to stop that program for so many months?
I can speak to that. So we had a program where mental health, they paired with one of our special enforcement team officers. The two would work together and not just respond to calls for service. They would actually proactively go out and engage with these people and try to help understand, what were their issues and doing more than just a simple, like law enforcement contact. They would actually reach out and go, hey, there's services available for you. Well, I don't have a mailbox. Well, let's go get you a mailbox. Let's go get you your medication. Let's go out. And they would actually drive them down and help them get the things they need or get them to the places or get them to the appointments so that they could actually get off the street. It was actually very successful. I think we got 3 or 4 people into care facilities where they got them off the street and got them to a better place. We had to end that program because we lost staffing. Our special enforcement detective had to go out to patrol and work the streets because we had to manage 911 calls. So although county mental health offered their social worker, we said we have no one to pair you with because we're just trying to answer a 911 call. So that's kind of a very direct example of how low staffing is impacting our ability to make meaningful change. You can keep calling 911 on transients, we'll show up, solve the immediate problem and then leave, but we're not making those strides towards actually helping these people get off the streets if we maintain the staffing model.
And we lost the staffing, right, because of the salary differential that we have where officers can get. What is it, Rachelle, what is that our officers can typically get? It's like $1,500 a month or so more in other jurisdictions. Oh, and you're muted. Maybe Ron can answer that question if Michelle is muted.
It can be pretty sizable. I don't keep up with the top pay because it depresses me. I know Pismo and Paso are the 2 highest paid police departments. I think we would need about 10% to get us up to middle of the road. And again, that's not what we're trying to get to is the top paid police department. I honestly, I don't think we want people that are in it just for the money. I think we want people that can just afford to be here and not lose the opportunity costs. Again, we have young officers that will work anywhere and they get training, and we do a great job of holding our standards. So after 3-4 years and they get to a position where they want a family or they want to buy a house, and they go, I can't. That's the toughest thing I have, is because I talk to these folks before they leave and they say, hey, what do you think? And the thing where I can't say, oh no, you need to stay, is whenever they bring up their family. I mean, how do I explain to my wife why we can't? How do I explain to my kids that we really need a growing house? My kid needs his own bedroom. I can't say, oh no, stay in Atascadero. It's going to work out. We have good culture, but it only goes so far, guys.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think we have just a little bit more time for one question that came in, is looking at the $119 year and $464 from Paso. What's the biggest variance with the population, services, and home units? Fairly similar?
They are fairly similar. Paso Robles has a population of about 31,000. We have a population of about 30,000. I think it's 31 if you throw in the state hospital, but so very similar, very different business and revenue. Paso Robles has a lot of hotels. Paso Robles has a lot of businesses, retail, those types of things, those Walmarts, those Kohl's, those just shopping opportunities. Auto dealerships are a huge source of sales tax revenue. They get about double our general fund revenue each year. So those are the bigger difference. Was that the question that we were trying to answer?
Charles, did you have a question?
No, I was going to add to Rochelle's comment. You know, one of the most meaningful slides I ever saw was in the North County Economic Update a few years ago. You know, we have the same population as Paso Robles, and they have about 7,000 more jobs in their city than we do. And that means, of course, we've got thousands of people that wake up every morning, leave, drive in their cars, usually by themselves, over the grade, mostly to San Luis Obispo or north to Paso to work, and then that's where they spend their money. And that's why those communities, you know, have so many more businesses to, you know, support those folks that are in town, as well as they had the advantage of being the commercial centers of the county before, you know, throughout history. But the fact that we have so many people get up and leave town every day to go to work is a huge impact on why we're a reasonably well-off community in terms of household income, but a poor city in terms of city revenue.
Okay, well, thank you all for joining us. And again, there's information on how to contact Ron. I also typed in the chat where you can get this presentation from Atascadero.org. We'll also have this recorded event will be up on the Atascadero Chamber website. We normally charge for these recordings. This one in particular, we thought was important to get out to the public, so this one will be free. Anyway, so our speaker next week will be Dr. Lisa Bassick with Dignity Health, who will share the essential strategies of staying healthy as we face the upcoming challenges dealing with COVID and the fall flu. This will happen next Wednesday, September 16th, again at 8:30 a.m. and you can register on our website. And the winner of the coffee cup, I can't talk today, coffee cup competition is Scott Hillis. And I didn't see your coffee cup, so can you hold it up? Oh, love it. Yay. So we have other upcoming events. Is we do have a candidates forum for the city council candidates that's going to be happening via Zoom. You can get that information on our website too. It's going to be September 24th at 7 p.m. And mayor's candidates forum is scheduled for October 1st, also via Zoom. And these are free events, so check them out on our website, which is popping up in the chat for everybody. And gosh, thank you again. Thank you, Rachelle and Ron, for your presentation. And thank you, Angela Cisneros, Jewelry Concierge, for being our presenting sponsor for our September series. And to Charles Barbeau for his contributing sponsorship. And that concludes our coffee talk.